Hello, friends, and happy Friday. How is everyone doing this evening? My goodness, the early birds were out in force tonight. We had quite a bit of conversation going on. It was good to see that. Always good to see guys happy and engaged without me, because I'm just the I'm just the I'm just the room that you all come to. But it is good to see you all, and we got quite a nice group assembled. So I'll be saying hello in a moment. Let's get this fully going. On a bookshop in the Matches Memorial Friday Sabanelli, as is the tradition here on the Friday Night live stream. And I hope you're enjoying your Friday. Your weekend's off to a great start. And for goodness sakes, I hope you're staying warm, because it is cold out there. So let's see who we've got thus far assembled. Gordy and Phil Rivera, how are you guys doing? Good to see you folks bright and early. Jeffrey Feinberg, David G. JD Wolf. Hey, JD, how are you? Great to see you here, buddy. Mushroom Leg Ray, long time no see. Welcome. And he was checking in early. Yeah, there was quite a few early birds. Steve Stazak, how you doing, Steve? Pondering with Pepe's Pipes. Always good to see you, Pepe. Aim with both feet. Greetings. You tell me what the topic is. In with Woody. How you doing, Woody? And yeah, Phil, thanks for the earwig. Thanks for the return of the earwig. I'll tell you, I got a better one today, though. Much better one. Gary Edminster. Cold. Yeah, that's cold, Gary. That's cold. Big Dave. Good evening, Big Dave and David Jenkins. Misty Mountain Piper, Possum End Pipe, James Steidle, Jimmy. Excuse me, Jimmy. Coughing on your 51363. Good to see you, Jimmy. Flint Hill Briar, good to see you, Gareth. Wow, quite a crowd. Quite a crowd. I think I might be close to caught up here. The Smooth Piper, hello, Peter. Signal Man Tony from Rhode Island. Boy, I got to start the show earlier to be able to say hello to everybody. Daniel Leslie. Just lit his 320 KS with Quiet Nights. New eyeglasses. Oh, boy. Always fun. Always fun. There's Lukester. Good to see you tonight, Luke. The Urban Hermit. Hello, Everett. 150th anniversary Bulldog. Missouri Meerschaum Bulldog with London Bookshop. Very nice. That Linux Thug. Hello, Declan. Good to see you. And I think we are all caught up. So, Casey Guthrie. Almost missed you, Casey. Good to see you tonight. So, that's where we are thus far. Yeah, Phil was trying to, I had a song stuck in my head the other day, and I thought, who deserves this more than me? So I gave it to Phil. And now he's giving it back, which is awfully nice. But today, Phil, I had one that topped the Beretta theme song. Today, for most of the day, I was walking around singing the Banana Splits theme song, which is very, very hard to get out of your head. Lord Hogarth, good evening to you. That would be stupid, Big Dave. That would be probably stupid. You look it up in the dictionary, that's one of the definitions. Phil, I'm going to try really hard not to think about that. No, the scary part is I know most of the words, Gary. It's one banana, two banana, three banana, four. Four bananas make a bunch, there's seldom any more. Watch, I'll probably get hit with a copyright flag now. Hard Crackers, how you doing tonight, Ron? Smoking Sutliff Blackthorn Shillelagh and Missouri Meerschaum Wenge Bamboo Patriot. Wow. Wangi? An entire king-size Reese's Fast Break. Ray, I don't know what that is, but probably is a good idea to ban them. What are they protesting, Big Dave? What did you do now? What did you do to get the pitchforks and the torches out again? Tonight's beverage? You'll be a Yingling. I didn't bring a glass. You're getting low class, Mike, tonight. That's not entirely fair. Non-highbrow, let's put it that way. I almost always drink the beer out of the can. And it depends on the beer. If I'm having it's like one of those Guinness Nitros or something, I will pour that in a glass. But for almost anything else, unless I'm here doing this, I do it just to do the pour in the glass, just for effect. But any other time, I'm drinking out of the can. It makes a fine fish fry batter, Mushroom Lake. Makes an even better beer. Doesn't matter to me, Daniel. I think there was a time when the cans tasted a bit tinny, but they're made of aluminum now, not tin. Yeah, I don't care. Can, bottle, I'm happy with either. Hey, do it, Declan. It's get yourself a kit and a Dremel. It's really quite doable with just those two things. If you get the kit with the pre-fit stem, and if you enjoy it, then you can get into it more deeply. But that would at least get you one down. Your block of cherrywood comment taken out of context could be very interesting, because you can't make tomatoes or bulldogs out of wood. Happy Friday, George Tiedemann. Autumn evening sounds good. Yeah, but next thing you know, I'll be one of them cigar bums, James. Negative Life 3. Smoking Haunted Joe Pegasus. It's 7 LE616KS. Very nice. Rich Milk, how you been, Rich? Has been a while. Good to see you. Oh, Paul Johnson, I am so sorry. That is such a tough thing to do. I feel for you, my friend. And all I can tell you is to take comfort in the fact that that dog knew that you loved it, and you gave it the best life it could have. So I feel for you, Paul. I hope you feeling better soon. 1792 flake in a mirror. Very nice. What can you make with cherry? No, the joke was that if you just read what you wrote, Declan, and not knowing that we were talking about pipes, you said you want to make a tomato or a bulldog out of a piece of cherry, which if you didn't know we were talking about pipes, okay, maybe I'm just off my rocker tonight, but it just struck me as funny. Not that anything you wrote was wrong. I just saw humor in it. Cherry is, I mean, you could probably make a billiard out of it. You could probably make a poker. It depends on how big the block is, of course. But, you know, if you're interested in just making one, that's fine. Cherry is not going to cut like Briar. It's not going to carve like Briar. So it's going to be a different experience. Probably a little bit easier to work, though. Cherry tomatoes. There you go, possum and pipe. It makes sense. It makes perfect sense. Absolutely, they do go to heaven, Paul. No question about it. I mean, I often think about the unconditional love that a dog has for a person as being a tiny reflection of the unconditional love of God. You know, it's the closest we can get to that as human beings. Because you can be horrible to a dog, and that dog will just love you. I mean, don't do that, of course, but they just, you know, I can, in my worst moment, you know, I'm grumpy, something bad has happened, and the dog comes running over, and I'm like, what do you want? And they shirk back, and then they just look up at you with those eyes saying, I don't know why you did that, but I still love you. And it just melts your heart. Anyway, uh, let's not dwell on that. So Phil, original ROPS I think might have been made out of cherry wood, because I have one that still has bark on it. It's definitely not briar. I know the modern cherry woods are not made out of cherry wood, and I don't know when that change happened, but I think the absolute original ROP cherry wood was in fact made out of cherry wood. That's a great quote, Rich. Great quote. Ahmed, howdy. Good to see you tonight. Daniel's asking about dream pipes. I think my dream pipe would be a billiard. I've only got about 47 of them. So. Yeah, cherry wood is kind of a poker on a slant. If you look up the shapes, you'll see they're similar, but there are distinct differences, and basically in the angle of the bottom of the bowl, bottom of the stomach. Bear Pipe has a ROP video. That's worth looking at. I have one in the distant past. I restored one, and I did a whole history of ROP and stuff. So if you're interested. Ah, okay, okay, Declan. Well, yeah, it'll work. It'll definitely work. There, Phil said it much more eloquently than I. Poker is a flat base. Cherry wood is canted forward. I have never showed you my pipes. You mean like my whole pipe collection, Ahmed? That would take a long time, and I don't want to because then people will count. Ron Piper, hi Christian. Give more information on cherry woods and pokers. I think those were his own teeth, Bad Dad. Although there's some, apparently they were not all made of wood. It's complicated, apparently. James, are you asking us to guess? So James says, in the book Towards the Theology of Pipe Smoking, the author speaks with disgust about the pipe. What was the pipe? Oh, maybe it's the pipe, which was a attempt to make a pipe that was all basically a high temperature thermoset plastic. I have one. I've never smoked it. But yeah, it's basically a plastic pipe. No, it might have been that. Ron, I remember Pipe Tree's video on that. That is really cool. Yeah, because Rob made a commemorative pipe for World War, the Allies' victories in the World War, and they had these little tags on them. And yeah, I remember seeing him talk about that. Was it phenolic, Rich? I don't remember. It's phenolic resin carbon infused. That sounds right, Phil. That sounds right. Um, but that from what everything I've heard and who said, Gary Edmonster said he smoked his and it's hot, and everything I heard is that it smokes really hot. Ah, Doug Owen, yes, that odious pipe made out of graphite. I think we're all talking about the same thing, and it was actually marketed as the pipe. Ahmed, I read your comment and I wanted to respond to it, and I thought that's going to take me some time. I want to think about it, and I never got back to it. I apologize, but it was an excellent comment. I don't disagree with you. In fact, I think we were talking about the same thing, just from a different perspective. Um, you were talking about how the eyes process perspective, and I was talking about how the brain processes what the eyes have already processed. But yeah, the fact is we do not see reality. Which is kind of creepy to think about if you think about it too much. No, Brylon was something completely different, Steve. That was the K Woody that used Brylon. Um, interesting material. It was basically reconstituted briar. Daniel, I think it's better to just not smoke a meerschaum. So maybe somebody else can answer Daniel's question. Misty Mountain Piper, old cherry wood has a rounded bottom, and its only marking is made in France. So it's probably a raw. Are you calling it a cherry wood because of the shape? Because it would be odd to have a cherry wood shape with a rounded bottom. Or do you think it's actually made of cherry? I would guess it's an old Rob. I will have to get out the pipe and show it to you guys. Maybe I'll remember to do that for next week. Was it Kay Woody that did the Brylon? I cannot remember. Yeah, it was briar mixed with nylon. It apparently worked okay. It was not as hated as the pipe, that's for sure. I have one mortar pipe, David. It was made by Rick Black, and I enjoy it. No, Daniel, Bakelite is a material unto itself. It's an early. It's actually, I think, the first plastic. It's a phenolic resin, uh, and it's. Some people claim that it's very, a better experience than acrylic for sure, and it is softer. But it's a little. It's hard to source now, and it's not the safest thing in the world to work with. Perfectly safe to smoke from, but the fine dust that you make when sanding can actually be quite problematic. Yellow Bowl and Medico. Big Dave looked up Brylon. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, that's interesting, Doug. The French cherry wood might be a different tree than the American standard cherry tree. Interesting. If the shank has bark on a Misty Mountain Piper, it's almost certainly a rock. Does the shank screw into the bowl? One of the cool things about the rocks. That is one of the benefits, Dr. Bob. Bakelite can be brittle, Big Dave, but I mean, they used it for a lot of things. Like phones were made out of Bakelite. It was the plastic for a long time. You know, entire radios, things like that. So it's not like it was fragile. I think the mortar is blasted. Uh, oh, moving too fast. I think the mortar is blasted, David. But I don't know mortar that well to know for certain. Yeah, that reddish colored Bakelite could be confused with amber. And yeah, the hot pin would definitely prove that to be wrong, Doug. Oh, that's a great tip, Draftfly Fisher. I'm gonna write that down because I write things down now because I'm old and I forget stuff. There's an old magazine from the 1940s in the public domain called Pipe Lovers. And you can read it on Google. I'm gonna look that up. Carry Magic Inch pipes. I have one of those too that I've never smoked. It's, believe it or not, it's with the pipe. Uh, I don't know. It's an interesting idea, but I can't imagine. I mean, I this sounds derogatory, and I don't mean it that way, but I kind of categorize that in this class of gimmick pipes, where the pipe itself, the basic simple pipe, has been around for a very long time, and to try and improve on it, is I think it's as improved as it can get. So when they start doing things like stingers and the magic inch thing and the uh, making them out of whatever, yeah, just smoke a pipe. But maybe it's great. I don't know. There are people that do like them. Ah, Christian put the link in the chat for us. Thank you, Christian. Thank you, Negative Light. That means a lot. That's what she said. Oh, Doug. There you go. Steve's stepping up to defend the magic inch. Ah, Daniel, you're full of STEM questions tonight. You could theoretically make a stem out of briar, and people have done it, but it's just not as durable. It's wood. You're going to be putting wood in your mouth and chewing on it, and you're going to, you know, you ever chew on a popsicle stick or a toothpick? It just wouldn't uh, be as long lasting. Dr. Bob's having a bowl call. He's got engine 99. I have, not surprisingly, haunted bookshop. It was a good one, Doug. I better keep drinking. Yes. I had forgotten that I, excuse me, I had forgotten that I opened it. I was going to say I better open the beer, and then I remembered that I did as I looked at it. Oh, good point, Phil. If you made it as one piece, you'd have to have the the buttonhole as big as the rest of the airway. So yeah. Good evening, sir. Good to see you tonight. Big Country Briar, how's it going, Cole? Ah, congratulations, Bum. That is good news. It's a big drop in AC1, too. Very good. Oh, thank you, Rich. Now I can have that stuck in my head for a week. Better than a banana split steam, I suppose. I'm so sorry to hear that, Cole. I hope you survive. Goldilocks, Tuskegee Airmen, and another System 302. Cool. But what about the accent commercial? I remember their tagline was "Foods need accent." Never saw it, Cole, because I'm not a 14-year-old girl. Cut it out, Phil. Daniel, there are physical limits to everything. You know, if the draft hole is too small, you're going to be drawing the air through it at such a rate that you're going to smoke very, very hot. If the draft hole is too large, you're going to be pulling such a large volume of air through it that it's going to smoke very, very hot. So there's a range in the middle there that works. I don't remember the sugar beet commercial, Rich. I'll have to look for that. Flint Hill, that's a terrible song to try to put into somebody's head. You're a mean man. I'm glad they enjoyed it, Cole. There you go, Palm. So 4 poached eggs every morning, salmon or cod for dinner, cooked in butter, no oil, no fried food, only fresh ingredients, almost no vegetables. Interesting. And coffee and tea. It is interesting, isn't it? I'll tell you a little diet story. A filter pipe needs a hole for the filter to fit in, Daniel, but the draft hole leading up to that doesn't have to be bigger. Okay, so Ron actually is one of the people that's going to be the pipe proponent. There you go. Try saying that fast. And he says that McClellan used to use them for tasting tobacco, which makes sense because they shouldn't ghost at all. That's interesting, Phil. I never really thought much about sugar beet refining. So to follow up on Holmes' diet information, I've been struggling lately because I lost a significant amount of weight a couple of years ago, and my weight's starting to creep back up again. And it got to the point where clothes aren't fitting well and stuff, and I thought, okay, gotta get serious about this. So I went back to tracking calories, and there's a number of calories that you can eat. You can do these calculations where if I eat this many calories per day, I should lose weight at a reasonable rate. And then I started putting my food in. I'm using the MyFitnessPal app for this. Um, and I'm way under. I'm way under. I'm like more than 1,000 calories under the amount that I should be losing weight at. And I don't understand this. I'm thinking this is just absolutely crazy. What's going on? And it's a well balanced diet. It's relatively well balanced, but I was really really low on protein because I eat a lot of salads and things like that. So I started poking around and checking different sources and things like that and seeing how can I get the protein up. And so what I decided to do over the past couple of weeks is so first off, I pretty much do intermittent fasting. I don't eat after 8 o'clock at night unless you count beer and whiskey, and I don't usually have breakfast. Maybe once a week I'll have breakfast. So I thought, okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add breakfast in. So I'm going to go 3 meals a day, and I'm going to try to start getting that protein up. And I'm going to try to get closer to the calorie goal. And I've been eating for the past 2 weeks to the point where I don't even want to think about food. It's hard for me to eat the amount of food I'm eating. And I've lost 5 pounds. I just don't understand how this works. It's very confusing to me. You think it's the high calorie haunted bookshop, Doug? Could be. That's good advice, Bona Piper. Very good advice. Uh, Dr. Bob, funny enough, we went out to dinner last night and I had some beer and I was shocked by this. Just want to catch up here. Uh-oh, Gordy, what have you done? Well, the idea, Daniel, is that the filter is supposed to have the smoke drawn through it. Now, the truth is most filters don't fit well and the smoke just goes around the outside of them, which kind of makes the filter irrelevant. Um, but ideally, the filter should plug the bigger hole. The smoke would be pulled through it, and it's only a short distance, and then it narrows down to the draft hole. Let's see. Started using Benefiber and lost 15 pounds. That's interesting. And things run more smoothly. Very interesting. So I went. Rich, I'm not sure what GSG means, but I'm sure it'll be fine. Oh, Phil, you're just a big old tubby, aren't you? It's okay. We went out to dinner last night, and I got some beer. I got 2 beers, and I come home that night, and I'm figuring out the calories, and I saw I better put the beer in, so I look it up, and the beer that I wound up with was Trogs Perpetual. They're 450 calories each. And I went, holy cow, 400. I had 900 calories of beer. That's like more calories than I was eating in a day for a while. You like the furnace, Rich? First person smoker, how are you tonight? Yes, you can tell when it doesn't fill the gap. That's true, Christian. You can feel it shake, or sometimes when if you draw in hard, you can feel it move and snap into place. Yingling is more calories than Guinness. So I looked up Yingling tonight. It was 190, something like 190. And just for the heck of it, I looked up Miller Lite, and Miller Lite's like 135. And you know what? I don't think it's worth it just to save that 60 some calories. I'll just walk a little bit more. Muscle tone of a bag of pudding. I like that in the book, Pete. That's very easy to visualize. You might be right about that, Paul. I mean, it's probably lower carbohydrate. Certainly lower than the tropes. I'm not going to try that, Phil. Yes, creator. Probably not too complex. It's a good point, Lord Hogarth. Yes, the Miller Lite crowd usually drinks more than one, so maybe that's the idea behind it. At least you're racking up fewer by the end of the night. That garage beer just looks bad, Gary. I haven't tried it, but it just doesn't look like it's going to be any good. Round is a shape, possum and pipe. Daniel, I did a whole series on filters and what I think about them, and I wrote a blog post on it too. It's one of those controversial issues where there are people that swear by them, people that think they're silly. You know, if it works for you, it works. I saw the black beer scat thing, Phil, which is just bizarre. That's an interesting way to think about it, Rich. Light beer is for people who don't actually like beer but want to drink a bunch of it. Yeah, walking is definitely underrated, Christian. And that's one of the things that I got to be careful about. Because I walked a lot at work. You know, I would usually have about a 15-minute walk just to get to my office from my parking spot. And then I would walk back and forth between buildings for different meetings. And then when I wasn't going to different meetings, I was walking around the labs and things like that. So I didn't sit very much during the day when I was working, and I don't have that anymore. I would go out for walks, but it's been like, 1 degree here, so 1 degree Fahrenheit. And I know, Christian Everett, I know it's not cold by your standards. That's like July weather, but for me, it's cold. We can't run with a pipe, dry flat fisher. This is true. I won. Hey, how about that, Peter? I'm so proud. Hello, Carrie. Good to see you today. Minus 35. My goodness, Christian. You're a hardy breed up there, the Great White North. The Smooth Piper has finished his haunted bookshop and is moving on to HGL in a Morlina panel-shaped bent billiard. Nice. And Carrie's having half and half in a Metco. Very nice. Minus 18 from Backcountry Pipe. My goodness, Mark. Minus 18 Celsius. Does anybody remember when the C used to stand for centigrade? No, spines were not meant to sit all day, for sure, Christian. An Art Deco cube pipe. Very cool, Rich. Actually, why don't you make a cubist pipe, like a Picasso style? Ten below, Gary. My goodness. We got down to, I think, minus 8 last night. You remember centigrade, Phil? Yeah, okay. Look, Troy remembers too. I don't know why it changed. Like for years it was centigrade, and then just all of a sudden it was Celsius. And I don't know why. The 100 degrees Caesarean would be bad, Phil. Yeah. Sometimes you just got to get a bag of kettle chips, David. Rich, I don't think starting would be the problem. It'd be knowing where to end. It was officially renamed Celsius in 1948 to honor astronomer Anders Celsius. It says in with both feet. Well, it was 1948. Why was I still hearing centigrade in like 1970s? I guess we're just slow to notice. 44 degrees Fahrenheit in rural southeast Texas. There you go. That's cold, James. That's very cold. We never started metric, Phil. Thank God. We stopped ignoring its existence in the 70s, but we never started it. Yeah, sure, pipe. There you go, Rich. Yes, yes, Bonapiper. All scientific work is done using the metric system. Uh, and it's interesting. So I think for those sorts of things, I mean, I'm split on this. Um, Certainly calculations are easier in metric because all, base 10. But I don't know. It's just if I need to think for like woodworking and things like that, it's just so much easier to do the fractional increments that you typically want to do. You're thinking about wood in halves and quarters and things like that. You're not thinking of it in tenths. Uh, oh, don't bring up the 10 millimeter socket, Gary. Every time somebody brings one of those up, one disappears. I don't think it's more accurate for things like woodworking, Phil, because you have to do orders of magnitude, whereas with woodworking you can do halves and quarters and things like that. I'm sorry, with woodworking, with the imperial system, you can do halves and quarters and things like that. So I don't think it's more accurate for that purpose, but certainly for weights and volumes. Cork-tipped cigarettes? That does sound unsmokable. Mr. Ikasimba, yes, long time no see. Good to see you, buddy. Every winter was like this. You're right, and we went to school, didn't we? Europe used Celsius since that great year of 1948, Doug. Yes, that was a fantastic year, wasn't it? It's more accurate for things that are proportional versus, um, I was going to say ratiometric, but I don't know if that's true. Oh, you know what? Let's not get into it. That is interesting that the body weight would be the last thing to go, Christian. That's very interesting. All right, I have finished my haunted bookshop. Well, I think, Ahmed, I think that's my whole point. I don't want to have a name for an eighth. I want to think of it as an eighth of an inch. That makes sense to me. Um, a 16th of an inch, a 32nd, I know what that means. I don't really know what if I'm going from millimeter, what's below millimeter? Micrometer? Am I going to be measuring out the next cut that I make in micrometers? It just, now, once you get into very small increments, machinists will go to decimal, so they'll talk in hundred and thousandths of an inch. So there is some decimalization, but uh, you know what? You use what works. Well, there's a reason to love the metric system, Carrie. Well, Fun and Piper, a lot of us have to have both sets, and I'm actually currently shopping for a metric drill set because I've just run into so many things that require metric size drilling. Newtons of torque. There you go. We should have stuck with the cubit. Why not, James? Hey, you know, I used to like the Dewey Decimal System, Phil. I could actually tell you it's been many, many years, but I knew the Dewey Decimal System pretty well. All right, I'm gonna have another pipe. Um, I'm not gonna be smoking the tobacco of the month tonight because the pipe I'm gonna smoke is actually my number 5 billiard, which I started smoking the other day, and I've been really enjoying it. So I'm gonna smoke it tonight. And because I'm still in the break-in period, I'm only smoking Haunted Bookshop in it. So such is life. Darn, I have to smoke another bowl of Haunted Bookshop. Yeah. But I've really been enjoying this one. I don't know what's different about it, but it's just come to life very quickly. And yeah, I guess I did okay. And it's funny. So I made number 5 and then I made number 6, and I had them both on the bench. I had never put the final polish on them or stamped them. And I thought the other day, you know, I really should do that. So I stamped them with, I try to show you, but it's not going to show up on the camera. So I have a stamp that just says CaneRod Pipes, and then I have a number stamp that I put below that. So I take number 5 and number 6, and I actually had looked them up to make sure I had the numbers right, because I keep pictures and everything. And I wrote on a slip of paper number 5, and I put it in this one. I wrote a number 6 and put it in the other one, and I took them over, and I got everything set up to stamp them over on the workbench. And I laid this one down, and I stamped it with CaneRod Pipes, and I didn't do it upside down, so I was very proud of that. And then I went and I got out the number stamp, and I stamped it, and I looked at it, and it said 6. And I went to all that effort to make sure I didn't do that, and I did it anyway. So then I put an X through the 6 and put a 5 next to it. So this is stamped CaneRod Pipes 6X5. I haven't finished the Telegraph Hill. I've still got some left, but I'm just not smoking it tonight. You know, Carrie, some people have said they've been noticing differences in batches of Haunted Bookshop. I really haven't. I do have a stamp, Rich, but it just says CaneRod Pipes. It's nothing fancy. I did do some punch cards, David. Yes, I'm that old. They are in decimal, Phil. What I should do is stamp them in binary. I very rarely do any deep cleaning with alcohol in that. I just run a pipe cleaner through them after I smoke them and put them away. I I really haven't had much of a problem with that. I know some people think they have to, do a deep clean every so often and all that, but I haven't done one in years. Matthew Geis, been a long day, just got home. Hey, it's good to see you, buddy. Thanks for checking in. 5 is 6, but 6 is 5 is a bit like a Monty Python skit. Yes, Rich. Morse code. There you go, Phil. Jay doesn't believe in pipe cleaners? Really? Carrie, I had a friend that would wash his whole pipe. He would take the pipe into the bathroom sink and actually run soapy water through the whole darn thing and let it dry for a day. I don't do that. Just don't do that. The acrylic stem, that's one of the great things about acrylic stems is you can just run some water through them. That's also one of the great things about the Falcon, by the way. The Falcon gets, I'm pointing to where it used to be. It's not there anymore. I moved it. Um, but the Falcon, if it ever gets particularly gummed up, you can just take the bowl off and drop it in a sink full of water. That's probably because Jay has like 15 pipes for every day and probably smokes the same pipe once a century. Sorry, Jay. You do have a lot of pipes, a lot of very nice pipes. I would guess that it is the letter E, Paul. You've actually seen pipe cleaners, James. What are you reacting to, Rich? Why are you doing no, oh God, no? It was the whole pipe, Gary, yes. Casey Guthrie, thanks for joining us. You have a fantastic weekend too, buddy. David, my dishwasher broke years ago. I am the dishwasher, so I guess I do put my pipes in the dishwasher. Oh, clean, yeah, he really did that. And he was one of these guys that had one pipe. He only smoked Borkum Riff. And he would smoke that pipe every day, several times a day. And when it got too gunky, he would just take it to the bathroom. Misty Mountain Piper, thanks for joining us tonight, buddy. Have a good night, a great weekend. That's actually why I guessed EPOM, because I knew it was the one dot based on the Morse code lead in that you had there. So Goldie, I'm going to assume that that's a whiskey, which is a perfectly fine thing to use if you're cleaning the stumble or stem. I will now. I'm going to tell you. I probably shouldn't say this publicly because you're going to laugh at me, but I usually clean a bunch of. So I don't clean my pipes every day. Uh, I'll do it a couple times a week maybe. So I'll sort of let them pile up a bit and then uh, clean a bunch of them. And I often do it in the morning. And I'll have a cup of coffee there, and I'll be cleaning the pipes. I got the pipe cleaners and all that. And sometimes with an acrylic stem, you start to see that there's some buildup occurring where you can actually see the airway is getting stained. And I will take a pipe cleaner and just dip it in the coffee and run it through. It gets the staining off, Probably had some staining itself, but it works. And it saves me having to go get something else. Ah, there we go. Dryfly Fisher says, Stephen Willett at Peretti says that if your pipe ever goes sour, put used coffee grinds in the bowl and let it set for a few days. Worked for one of his pipes. That's an interesting approach. Hey, Armchair Piper, how are you, Ed? Hope you're staying warm and well, you hopefully you don't need to shovel any of the snow. I think they take care of that for you where you live, so. If I had a glass of whiskey, I would dip the pipe cleaner in the glass of whiskey, but I don't drink whiskey at the time that I smoke the pipes, so it gets coffee. Bill, I don't even think about that. I'm glad you're just joking. I always get a little nauseated when people talk about like they use spit to clean the rim of their pipe or the whole rub it against your nose thing and all that. Don't put bodily fluids on your pipes. Glad you're staying inside, Ed. It's a smart thing to do. I wish my dogs would learn to do that, but I don't think they've ever seen this much snow. I don't think we've gotten this much in their lifetime. Could be wrong about that, but they've been having a lot of fun. I alluded to them falling through the ice in the description to this live stream, but it just I cannot. I know it's terrible, but I cannot stop laughing about this. They walk across, just frozen enough to barely support their weight, and they'll take a couple steps and then just go crunk through. And it's really funny because they've worn paths in the yard, and they could just take those paths, but they don't like to because then their paws are actually in the snow. So they want to walk up on the ice, and they just keep falling in. I don't know why, but I could watch it for hours. Yeah, any alcohol would work. First person saying Jack Daniels, somebody else said vodka, whiskey, whatever. You get pipe sweetener. I've never thought it was worth it, but Uh, I know people have used mouthwash, but honestly, I just don't see a need for it. But you know what? If a big part of smoking a pipe is the routines and the rituals that we put in place, and a lot of those are arbitrary and highly personal, and that's okay. You know, I think the problem comes in when people start, and nobody here is doing this, but when people start saying this is the way you do it, this is the only way. Uh, well, yeah, but you're, I mean, that's supposed to happen, David. Yeah, I said I made a whole video about this in my, I don't know, it's like advice to new and young pipe smokers series. If anybody ever tells you that this is the way you should do it, the way you have to do it, you should walk away from that person. They could say this is the way I do it. They could say you should try doing it this way. But if it's this is the way you have to do it, eh. Parsons blend in a Paranelli. Sounds good, James. Dr. Bob, I don't think I've ever seen a bottle of Frangelico in the wild. I've certainly never owned one. I don't even know really what that's used for. I know it's a liqueur, but I'm not a liqueur drinker. Coffee grounds work, says Ron. Cool. Yeah, I've never believed the whole saliva in the down the draft hole thing, Phil. That's crazy. An Italian hazelnut liqueur. Well, why would you want that in your pipe? Oh, it's the one okay, okay. It's got like a yellow top on it, and it looks like a Franciscan friar. I've seen it in bars. I've seen it in bars. Yes. Thank you, Smarty Bob. I guess if you like hazelnut, that's true, James. Yeah, Gareth, I wouldn't want to use a sugary liqueur either, but Nutty Irishman is flavored with Frangelico. Okay, that's interesting. I enjoy the occasional bowl of Nutty Irishman. Yeah, it definitely is the moisture from the tobacco, and the gurgling is caused by the moisture from the tobacco, and also how the pipe is drilled, and to some extent how it's packed as well. I've never had that particular liqueur, Phil, but most of the ones that I have tasted seem sugary. Yeah, I don't know. But again, like I said earlier, if that's his ritual, if that's what brings him joy when he smokes his pipe, then that's great. Oh, Doug says Nutty Irishman is flavored with amaretto. Well, that's completely different. I do know what amaretto tastes like. So you knew somebody that actually cleaned with amaretto, Bonapiper? That's interesting. Well, Tom, that's a joyful thing. Yeah, I get you, Phil. I appreciate that. One thing I think I should mention, and this, I mean, this might be very specific to the process I'm describing, but you all know what retorting is, and when you boil the alcohol and run it through the pipe to clean it, run the steam of the alcohol through the pipe to clean it. I have found a few, not every, but a couple of acrylic stems reacted very poorly to that. The alcohol made them gummy. It practically ruined the stem. Uh, Took a lot of work to fix that. So I will not retort an acrylic stem anymore because of that. And I'm very careful about putting alcohol on acrylics. Now, acrylic is a very broad term. There's all different things lumped into acrylic, and maybe there's some that are sensitive and some that aren't. But just something to keep in mind if you're one of these guys using Everclear or something. Be careful with acrylic. Good night, Jeffrey. You have a great evening and enjoy your weekend. Gary, is that why she's X? Because that would definitely strain my relationship if Mrs. CaneRod used lemon pledge on my pipes. Yeah, it can definitely cause the crazing, Phil. Yeah, but this it just became gummy. Oh, it's interesting that the heat vent would be more sensitive. Oh, that's good, Christian. Yeah, what I've done is when I need to retort a pipe that had an acrylic stem, I will take the stem off and I'll clean the stem really thoroughly, so it gets cleaned. But I'll make like a Delrin tenon to fit the pipe that has a little nozzle on it that I can attach the tubing to, and I'll just retort it with like a false stem made out of Delrin. But if it's vulcanite, I'll just use the vulcanite stem. It's not really a problem. First person's moving on to old Joe Krantz white label. He resorted to retorting. Can tongue oil be used on briars without ill effects? Depends on what you mean by ill effects, David. I don't think it would cause any health issues if that's what you mean, but tongue oil is very slow to cure. And I think it might, if you're not real careful to buff it out, it might actually get a little gummy when it heats up. I'd probably stay away from tongue oil, but maybe somebody. Okay, so Phil's saying tongue oil can be, but it's much slower to cure than something like boiled linseed, Phil. So I think I'd be careful with it. Yes, Mr. Ikasimba, that does make sense. I have used the Eldritch resin, Rich, and I love it. It's wonderful stuff. It works like vulcanite, and it's got a great mouthfeel. I just wish it were more readily available in black, basically, or a little bit less shocking colors, and it's a little pricey too. Well, Danish oil has got varnish in it, doesn't it, Phil? Like an oil varnish alcohol mix or oil varnish mineral spirit mix, something like that. Steve is asking, what's the best thing to use to keep the stems from turning brown? Um, Dry them off after you're done smoking and keep them out of sunlight. I don't believe there's anything you can apply to the stem that's going to prevent that. It might make them look better while the oil's on the surface, but it's not going to prevent them from oxidizing. Yeah, same here, Phil. I honestly haven't read it in a long time, but I kind of remember varnish. And they have aren't they called Japanning agents? The dryers, which are just aromatics that help it cure quicker. I don't think obsidian oil is going to keep it from oxidizing Bona Piper. It'll make it look pretty, but it's not going to prevent the oxidation. Yeah, Phil, the Japan dryer. That's what I was thinking of. But again, it's been a long time since I paid any attention to that. Yeah, the whole Japanning of like planes and things like that is really fascinating. Uh, Something I've thought about trying for some old tool stuff, Phil, but it usually was just more complicated than I wanted to get into. Black spray paint is a lot easier. Buffing and waxing isn't going to hurt, Steve, but it's really a matter of it being exposed to sunlight and being wet. So especially with saliva, because it's not, if it's pure water, it would probably be a little bit better, but uh, it's creating that environment that promotes the oxidation. I think there's something about salinity as well. I don't know. It's been a long time since I've put much thought into that as well. But buffing and waxing isn't going to hurt. That's for sure. Hey, Sleepy Piper Todd, happy Friday to you. Also, the quality of the vulcanite is important. So there are some of the lower quality, softer vulcanites are going to have a lot more sulfur in them, and therefore they're going to oxidize more quickly. And that's why I have some pipes, that I've restored that just the stems are brown on them. They're just always going to be brown, and I can sand them and buff them and get them back to black, but within a week they're brown again. Well, I'm proud of us. This has been a very pipe-centric evening. We don't often do that. I'm about here. I've never tried the Guidici stems, Phil, but I've heard good things about them. And yeah, the German ebonite seems to be pretty good. But even that, there's different grades. It's just appearance, James. I don't think it causes any structural issues or anything. It's very much a surface phenomenon. It's only the first, like a microscopic layer. Well, it's not microscopic because you can see it, but you know, it's a very thin layer on the surface that's oxidizing. Brotherhood of the pipe is strong. We are centrist, yes. We, we barely touched on sea monkeys, Gary. Yes. There never is. It's interesting you bring that up, Phil. I've seen a lot of pipe makers have negative opinions of the Japanese ebonite. But as I've been getting into pen making, it seems like a lot of pen makers prefer the Japanese ebonite because it is hard and does not oxidize as much. So it's interesting that there's that distinction between the two groups. David, I believe it or not, I've thought about either that or ways to remove the oxidation. And I sat down with a friend of mine who was a really excellent chemist. And I explained to him, you know, because he didn't know anything about pipes. So I explained to him the whole situation and, you know, the sulfur and all that. And we looked up how ebonite is made and, you know, vulcanization and all that. And he looked at me and he said, and I'm quoting here, I wouldn't normally use this language, but he said, there's no effing way you're going to fix that. It's just, that's what's going to happen with that product. Black Sharpie. Soak them in India ink. Thank you, Christian. Hello, Sego. I hope I'm saying that right, Ahmed. Glad you could join us tonight, Sego. Squid ink. There you go, Shane. Perfect. Black Rust-Oleum. That's going to give you a very, what's the word I'm looking for? Sturdy finish. Yeah, I'm with you, Gareth. I mean, when I get a stem like that, that's just that stem, you know. I don't like having oxidation around the bite zone, you know, when it's just there and it gets sort of grungy looking, I don't like that. But when the stem just has that brownish cast on it, it's just that stem. Nothing you can do about it. Rhinoplastics coal mine pen blanks are very similar to eldritch and ebonite, no oxidizing. Good to know, Phil. I don't know what it is with that eldritch resin, but it's got a very different feel to it. He really hit on something interesting with that. That's interesting, Mr. Akasimba. It's probably exactly what you're saying. It's probably masking it by keeping that sort of wet wax look to it. But yeah, if it works, it works. Truck bed spray and liner. So it's a polyester resin, Phil? I like his acorns in width. He does a nice job on those. I'm sure you're going to enjoy that. Easy rustification. Ah. So it's just at the very end, Steve, and it's probably a reaction to the moisture. And again, other than keeping it dry, not a lot you can do. What you could do is, I have a bunch of billiards that I keep in a. So I've got a pipe rack that had a humidor in the center of it, a glass jar humidor. And I actually have a bunch of billiards that are just sitting up in it like this. I call it my bouquet of billiards. You can just fill like the bottom couple inches of that with mineral oil and just let them sit in a mineral oil bath all the time. Of course, you'd have to like blow that out before you. That's a bad idea. We all have pet peeves, so. Well, folks, I'm almost empty here, and it's that time. It's actually past that time. The whole truck bed liner uh, string has been quite funny. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna wrap this up. It's been great chatting with you tonight. I had a fantastic time. So thank you all for joining me and making this such a great Friday. So I hope you all take care and have a fantastic weekend. I'll be back on Sunday. Special video on Sunday if I get around to making it. Talking about a very unique pipe and stem. So if you get a chance to catch that, I think you'll enjoy it. And we'll be back next Friday with more of whatever you want to call this. So, good night. Take care and be good to one another. Bye now.